Hi, my name is Stephanie and welcome to my channel. So I'm gonna kind of jump right into it because I have a lot to say and I'll be covering two books today. So one of them was okay and the other one, just no. I do not recommend this series. If you want to find out why, please keep watching. So I am going to be talking about the As the World Dies trilogy by Rhiannon Frater. So I read the first two, the first book being The First Days, the second book being Fighting to Survive, and the third book being called Siege. So they started as a web series, and then when fans wanted an actual published book of it, Rhiannon Frater self-published in 2008 and 2009 for the first and second book respectively, and then in 2011 a publishing house based in New York called Tor picked it up and released new editions. These are all zombie apocalypse, so science fiction, horror mixed genre. I'm not quite sure where zombies fall. Uh, Before continuing, I do recognize that having a web series popular enough that your fans want you to publish a book is impressive, and then having that be popular enough that you're noticed by a publishing house is impressive again, and I'm happy that the author got to see her efforts validated, although recognition of this should not change personal opinions, and it doesn't. So let's just get into it. The First Days, this one was okay, and I liked it enough to move on to the second book. Clearly, the plot follows two women, Katie and Jenny, who meet at the very beginning of the zombie coming and it follows them as they learn about each other and search for safety, and they adopt a dog and save Jenny's stepson and learn to cope basically in this new world. It's fairly basic, but zombies are generically enjoyable, at least that's what I find. The writing was just very okay. It's third person limited, and it does switch between our two main characters as like the main focus of the limited omniscience. And I think that it does switch a little too often because it switches every few paragraphs. But I think its original basis as a web series is part of that, and each installment was kind of like a switch between the two characters. The sentences are not complex, the language is very basic, and it reads very quickly. Uh, Characters. I think the zombies were done well. I like them in this book. There aren't a lot of characters in the first half outside of our two main characters, which is fine since we're just getting to know them and they're just getting to know each other. It seems like the author was trying to attempt some complex characters that had some diversity and personality, but it did fall a little flat. It is quite repetitive, the things that they're dealing with, which in Jenny's case is understandable, but in Kate, I don't know, it missed the mark. The stepson that we meet and spend so much energy trying to save ends up being fairly flat and a very stereotypical teen. I do like the various reactions, and we get a spectrum of reactions from the people they meet along the way to safety. But the characters at the end, in the final safe haven that they land in, are also flat, including the main leaders that get quite a bit of time. They just seem like generic men. Uh, which brings me to the relationships in the first book. I like the relationship between Jenny and Katie. I think I do this because it focuses on just building trust, sisterhood, and support in this new scary world. And I don't like that at the end of the book, though, one of our heroines is already sleeping with someone. His name is Ron, and this annoys me because she's been talking about happiness at being free from her husband who died at the very beginning of the book, became a zombie. Also, Jenny and this guy, Juan, start sleeping together despite the fact that they've been fighting in an unreadable and unbelievable manner ever since they got to the compound. And Jenny goes on and on about her crush on Travis, and suddenly it's just like, no, because I'm sleeping with one. Our other heroine, Katie, who has spent the entire book mourning the loss of her wife, has an instant romance feeling with one of the main leaders in this compound. And I will say that they don't actually end up sleeping together or ending up together in the first book which I liked. But he's a little pushy, and that's kind of annoying. And I will say that at least she doesn't seem to be having it better with him. But yeah, dealing with sensitive issues. So I think she attempted, but again, fell short. Kind of like in the character part. This is her first book, so I gave her quite a bit of leeway with everything. Jenny is an abused housewife, which is why I think that her topping. Jenny is an abused housewife, and so her just hopping into bed with someone new after spending much of the book being excited to be out was, yeah, that. And I think the dealing with her abuse was dealt with okay. The writing kind of ruined the way that Rhiannon dealt with someone coming out of that kind of relationship, but implicitly it was included and it was something brought up. She swings between hearing her dead abusive husband in her head and feeling free despite the horrors that are happening around her, and that's positive. At one point, Katie points out that just because she had a wife doesn't mean she wants to sleep with every available girl or woman, and that immediately puts her and Jenny in the friendship category, and I really did like that it dealt with a stereotype and set up for their positive relationship throughout the book. What I didn't like was that at the very end, Katie comes out as bisexual, and that doesn't inherently bother me because I am too. But what bothered me was that we only find out because Katie is starting to fall for the first attractive and available man. No. Other than that, though, the book, well, what not great. I didn't have any glaring issues, and I was just reading it for fluff entertainment, and that's what I got. So I moved on to the second book, which this is going to be a little ranty. The plot of this book, I think this is still too long. I'll cut some stuff out. So, the plot, this is Fighting to Survive. It's just the building expansion of like the safe haven compound that Katie and Jenny have found, and continued learning about like how people inside and outside the fort are reacting to the zombie situation. Except the characters are so flat, there is no real learning. Again, pretty basic premise for a second book in a zombie series. There are no real twists, and we kind of know who the baddies are going to be coming from the first book because there's like an epilogue section that gives it away. There's supposed to be a mini mystery going through this book about a compound vigilante, but it kind of felt like a weird add-on and wasn't even fully addressed by the end of the book. I may be missing this though because I'm not going to read the third book. And the writing was worse. It felt rushed, it felt sloppy, the dialogue was poor, and the repetition was more noticeable. We had things repeated not just within the book, but from the first book. And the POV is still third person limited, but we've added the two males that are now in a relationship with our heroines as extra focus points. And so it switches around a lot more, and I didn't like that. And even at one point we get like the dog's perspective, which could have been a cute paragraph but went on way too long. And yeah, the characters. All of the characters were awful, just stereotypes dropped onto the page. We have a mayor just blubbering through the whole book, the rich power couple that only complains doing no work. We have a big black girl with a flamboyant gay best friend, and the crazy guy in the tinfoil hat. Everyone else in the book just gets a name, basically. Not only this, but every single character from the first book stagnates and stays the same through this whole book. Same issues, over and over, repeat. Even our two main females. And while there are over 100 survivors in this compound, 99% of them don't do anything but seem to just mill around and exist to live in the compound. We don't really get to meet them or talk to them in much depth or really at all. The relationships. I will say that while this book mentions sex, it has no explicit sex scenes, which is appreciated because I don't like them. I think they're necessary in books. However, the two main relationships, one for each of our main heroines, are shallow, and neither of the couple learns what true communication is. They talk and have dialogue in the book, but they never actually talk about anything substantial, really, and never have a real conversation, at least a conversation I would expect serious couples to have. Even at the end, neither couple knows much about their partner, and that's just because the reader doesn't even know much about any of the characters, really. So how is that partner going to know? The amount of space that gets taken up with couples just thinking about how much they like each other being removed would have cut the book in about half. The friendships and non-romantic relationships between other characters get big mentions, but don't get any time and don't get talked about really at all. 5 minutes is about how long it takes for Katie to get over her dead wife, hop into bed with Travis, and then 5 minutes after that, Katie and Travis decide they want to have a baby and stop using the condoms that are available at the compound. Like, what? Zombies, baby, no. Some books have it as an accident, and okay, fine, not great, but like, not on purpose. There's zombies trying to murder you. No babies. Finally, dealing with sensitive issues. So, not everyone is like, well, in the compound, and I like that. However, Frater just kind of kills off the characters that go slightly beyond unlikable, which gives them no chance for teaching or growth or learning or anything like that. Just if you're a bad guy, you'll be dead by the end of the book. The bandits, they all die at the end of the book. The guy who rapes Katie so she can see what being with a man is like, he's dead at the end of the book, and so is the friend that sort of sticks up for him. And we don't notice, but this is kind of a trend from the first book. The town drug dealer, dead. The abusive husband, dead. And technically they're all killed by zombies, but excluding the abusive husband, all of them were sent to their death by humans. They send them out of the compound, which is death by a zombie. And while I don't like these kinds of people, I do think that they exist, and the author missed an opportunity, and this is kind of just lazy writing and not dealing with issues. They aren't going to just disappear because the world is ending. As nice a thought as that is. Also, I don't like that every single person who crosses the line from just annoying and a little unbearable to wrongdoing, things like the rape and the drug dealer, every single one of them is a man, every single one. And all of the bandits are men. I recognize that she might have an issue, but that takes away from the fact that, like, bad people and people who have horrible stereotypes in their mind can be anyone. I think it kind of cheapens what is happening. So that was the last straw for me. I'm not going to read the third book because there wasn't really anything, if you can tell. I didn't like the characters, the plot was meh, the relationships were blah, and she didn't deal well with sensitive issues, and so I'm not going to be reading the third book, but this review is definitely long enough, and if you've stuck with me this long, thank you. If you can tell, I don't recommend it because it's a series. I can't recommend the first one because I'm not going to finish the series. There are far better. If you have good zombie stories, leave them in the comments below, and if you want to see what I'm reading next, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next video.